Hello dear students. Today we are going to learn the agriculture engineering subject for the second year BSc agricultural program. The course title is Agri Informatics and the course code is Computer 231 for the semester 3. Name of the module is Communication Process, Berlo's model of communication along with feedback and barriers of communication. I am Dr. Shreyas Subhaschandra Jadhav, working as Assistant Professor in Don Bosco College of Agriculture, Sulcorna, KP, Goa. Outline of the presentation is to study the communication process along with different models of communication and to know the characteristics and features of Berlo's model of communication. Then learning outcome will be the communication process will be studied along with its various barriers and feedback of communication process will be learned. Let's try to understand what is the meaning of communication. The communication process is fundamental for human survival. It is essential to the development of an individual, to the formation and continued existence of the group, and to the interrelation among the groups. No any other social process is as important and basic as the communication to development of human individuals, their cultures, civilization, science and technology, institutions and organizations, and everything that is man-made. In fact, communication has separated human beings from animal kingdom and endowed them with the superpowers to control the world around them. So what is the definition of communication? Communication is the process by which two or more people exchange their ideas, facts, feelings or impression in such a way that each gain a common understanding of a meaning, intent and use of the message. So this definition is given by Ligon. Another simple definition is given by Rogers and Shoemaker, which defines communication as it is a process where source is transferring the message to the receiver, or in short, the message is transferred from source to receiver. It is nothing but the communication. So the communication is a two-way process wherein the message in the form of ideas, thoughts, feelings or opinions is transmitted between two or more persons with the intent of creating or a shared understanding. Effective communication is when the message is conveyed by the sender is understood by the receiver in exactly the same way as it was intended. Whatever the intention of sender to send the message, it is realized and perceived as it is by the receiver, then it is considered the communication happened. Then let's move to the model of communication. There are various models of communication prevailing in the social sciences, but the Berlo's model is considered as important for the computer informatics, which is presented in front of you, which is having 6 elements in the communication model. The elements are source, encode, message, channel, decode and receiver. Let's try to understand each element briefly. Source is the person who is creating the message, who is intended to provide the information. Actually, source is the generator of the information, who is providing the messages to the ultimate receivers. So from here, source is considered as a generating source of the information. That's why it is considered as a source. It is a basic or first element of the communication model. Then encoding. The source who is generating the information provide the encoding to the message so that this message should not be get diverted or leaked among all the entire social community. To whom it is intended, only to them this message been encoded so that there will not be a leakage of the information. So it is nothing but the encoding. It is the next element. Then the third element is message. It is nothing but the information or the knowledge which is source intended to deliver to the ultimate receivers. The next element is channel. It is considered as a physical bridge or imaginary bridge between the information which is going to be shared from source to the receiver. So channel is nothing but the physical or imaginary bridge which is helping source to deliver the information to the receiver. For an example, mobiles, computers can be considered as a channel to deliver the information. Then next element is decoding. The final receiver of the information decode the information which is being sent by the source. The intention is that to those to whom the message been intended, only they know how to decode the information or how to decode the message, and then only they will try to acquire the information. And the last element of the communication is receiver. These are the final recipient of the messages to whom the message is being created. Then what is the criticism of Berlo's SMCR, that is subject, source, message and channel and a receiver model of communication is prevailing? Then the critic says that it does not have feedback or don't know about the effect of entire communication. Then it does not maintain or mention the barriers of communication. Then another criticism is there is no room for the noise. Then another criticism of Berlo's model of communication is it is considered as a complex model only for the concern of encoding and decoding. If the decoding fail, the entire message may get lost. Then another criticism is about it is a linear model of communication, and the needs of people to be on same level of communication to occur, but not true in real life. So in a real life, this communication model will not prevail, that is for sure. Then another main drawback of the model is that the model omits the usage of sixth sense as a channel, which is actually a gift to the human beings. For an example, thinking, understanding and analyzing is being omitted by this Berlo's model of communication. Then let's try to understand what are the communication barriers which are prevailing in the entire communication process. The first barrier is physiological barriers. So these are the some are the individual personal discomforts which are being there. Only for that reason the communication may not happen. These are considered as the physiological barriers. For example, ill health of a source or receiver, then poor eyesight of the receiver, or hearing difficulties. So these are the physiological barriers which are prevailing in the communication. Then physical barriers. The physical barriers which are the distantly located or the infrastructural associated barriers are there. These are considered as the physical barriers. If suppose the source and receiver are distantly located, there are chances the communication may not happen effectively, or the infrastructure drawbacks, the poor internet facility, etc. can be considered as a physical barriers. Then next, cultural barriers. There are certain behavioral constraints can be achieved or can be traced in the entire communication process. Various cultural behavior restricts receiver to achieve or perceive information which is sent by the source. Then next important barrier is language barrier. It limits receiver or the source to understand the information well enough. For an example, if suppose source is delivered information in English and there are chances the local receivers does not understand English, so there are chances the communication may get lost. So this is a language barrier. Then interpersonal barrier. It is another important psychological barrier considered by the social scientists, because whatever the source intended the information, there are chances the receiver may not perceive as it is. Different analysis may be quoted by a receiver, which will lacks in the entire communication process. So it is another interpersonal barrier. Then psychological barriers. There are various psychological barriers. For example, perceptual barriers. Whatever the source delivering the information, there are chances the information is perceived differently by the receiver. It is a perceptual barrier. Then emotional barrier. If a particular information, emotional information is sent by the source, the receiver is not received the information by that same emotional question. So there will be a limitation in the communication. And experiential barrier. If suppose a source having a limited experience or the receiver having a vast experience, there will be a communication gap will be observed all the time. Then certain stereotypes are prevailing as a communicational barrier. For example, if suppose the receiver is all the time with the negative attitude, he is not ready to listen, he is not ready to accept new innovation, so it will not help to achieve a communication process at well enough. So certain stereotypes are also considered as a communicational barrier. And the last one, the authority. Certain authorities are neglecting receivers to not be a part of communications. These are certainly happen in the organizations which limits the entire communication process. Only a certain receivers being sent to a communication processes, or some receivers being neglected from the communication processes all the time. So this is another communication barrier. This is the reference I use for my presentation. Thank you.